It was a day like any other, except the date and the events that transpired, and the weather. My office door made a sound like knuckles banging against wood. "Mr. Dick?" a soft female voice called. "Please," I worded. "Mr. Dick was my father. Call me Dick. Richard Dick." She was just like any other dame, kinda tall for a short gal. Legs from her ankles to her hips, eyes on her face, just above her nose, a mouth. And when that mouth opened, I knew I was in trouble. "You're in trouble," she said. "Trouble? Trouble's my middle name." I lied. "My middle name is Peter." I poured her a drink. "I don't drink," she said. "You must get incredibly thirsty," I replied. She sighed a deep sigh using a combination of her mouth and lungs. She was the type of girl that walked into your office through the doorway with something to say. "I hear you're the best private dick." "What?" I blushed. "No, I'm a private detective." She winked at me with both eyes simultaneously. "I have something to say." The way her eyes moved, I could tell she was looking at stuff. "Someone's trying to frame you for my husband's murder," she breathed breathily. "Is it you?" I asked inquisitively. "No," she replied answeringly. "Excellent. Case closed." "Is this a joke?" she asked. "No, that's a question," I replied, wondering if she knew the difference between a joke and a question. "Someone's framing you and implicating me. How do you know?" I told her. A voice shouted quietly enough to be normal speaking volume. I could tell by his police badge and uniform he was a cop. Or a stripper. "Come to the station and answer some questions." "Which station?" The police station." "You know this skirt?" "Could be Ralph Lauren." "I mean the dame." "No. Bond," she said. "Jane Bond." The cop was unconventionally skinny. His large gut hung over his belt like melting wax. "I'll be in touch, Mrs. Bond," he said, presumably to the dame. "Miss Bond, please. I'm newly single," she winked. "Time to go," he said to me. And with that, I knew it was time to go. I got to the station and some of the cops greeted me like they knew me. Which they did. I was a cop for 8 years. The chief called me into his office and looked at me with both eyes. "Well, if it isn't Dick, Private Dick," he barked at me in a human voice. "It is, though." The chief threw a pile of photos onto his desk. They were of a man lying on the floor. The guy in the photos looked like a regular Joe, apart from the gaping hole where his face used to be. "What do you think of this?" I studied the photos for a few minutes. "He's dead." The chief looked at me with the look my ex always gave me whenever I spoke. "So you're singing that tune, huh?" I wondered if I'd sung by accident again, but no, I was sober. "This case has your name all over it." "That says Samsonite," I replied, convinced he couldn't read. "I know you shot Mr. Bond." "Can you prove it?" I asked questioningly. "The question is, can you prove it?" "They're both questions," I pointed out helpfully. He looked at me and pointed his eyebrows downwards. "You think you're smart, but you're just a dick. Dick. Are you saying you didn't shoot him?" "I didn't say that," I clarified clearly. "Did you shoot him?" "No." "You're a prime suspect. Don't go anywhere." I remained in my seat patiently. He emitted a long, deep breath. "I mean, don't leave town, but do leave my office. Now." I knew the dame would eye up another private eye while I was in the cop shop. The only other dick in town was Vic Carlisle, private eye. He and I didn't see eye to eye. but he'd have his eyes fixed onto hers. Not literally. It was time this dick did some poking around. The Bond house was like any other house apart from the number, location, and the police line do not cross tape everywhere. And the creepy guy standing outside dressed like a magician. You supposed to be some kind of magician? I asked, my detective skills kicking into gear. You a cop? His eyes moved rapidly from side to side. I looked to see what he was looking at. Mostly shrubbery. What do you do? I asked questioningly. I make things disappear, he probably lied, and with that, he disappeared out of my line of sight and walked slowly away. I searched the house looking for something that would give me more insight into the murder. Clues. I went to the lounge and the body was gone. All that was left was a white outline in the shape of a man. The magician hadn't been lying. He truly could make things disappear. I had questions for the dame that only she could answer. Otherwise, there'd be questions for someone else. Someone who didn't have her thin, full lips and miscellaneous complexion. It was time this investigation got investigated by an investigator. A private investigator. Me. I knew the dame wasn't home because I was there and she wasn't. Where? I asked myself, beginning an unnecessary exposition. Where would a cheap, classy broad who alongside me was being framed for her husband's murder go? To get her gun, said a deep, high-pitched voice. What are you doing in my home? She asked, gun pointingly. Being held at gunpoint? I mean, why? You're the one with the gun, you tell me. I'll ask the questions here. I waited. Are you good? I was just about to ask. Sorry, you go ahead. What are you doing in my home?